Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers, and I think you might remember this guy, our bomber that we built quite a few episodes ago now. What we're doing is literally outfitting this bomber. We built the bomber, we put the mount points on, and then we kind of strayed away from it for a little while as we were experimenting with the torpedoes. Missiles, torpedoes, whatever we want to call them. We have, I think, perfected our torpedoes, which you saw us testing on the last go around. Now the only difference is I made an HE version, a high explosive version of the warhead, which actually, instead of the one bank of payload warheads, is 4 banks of payload warheads. So why do I want something quite so destructive? Because, I mean, why make a missile if it's not going to be destructive, right? So anyway, I decided that because there are only 2 missiles on the top side of the bomber, that those would be the HE variety, the high explosive variety. So those are actually already in. Let's zoom in here so you can actually see them. So standard thruster package. In this case, standard guidance package, and then we have this monster warhead off the front that almost hangs off the front of the wing. Literally 4 warhead packages, 4 warheads each, besides the big one here. So when this puppy arms, I'm guessing it's going to cause quite a bit of damage somewhere, I hope. So I haven't tested this one out, but it might be fun to see. So right now we're just outfitting the ship. We have the aft torpedo back here. You also notice I did change them to black. I think black next to the backdrop of space is actually a good idea because it's going to be a little harder to see. So that was the idea. So we've got the lower aft one here, LA for short. We have the starboard upper here, and like we showed you on the other side, we had the port upper on the other side. So all these are going to be a bit hard to see, but I figured I would kind of walk through everything with you, and so this is kind of into the realm of we did a little while ago the projector tutorial. We didn't get really into the weeds as far as configuration goes, but we did get a bit into it. So we're going to get into the weeds now. So K to bring up my control panel here, and so let's work on the outboard units. Okay, so outboard here, port lower outboard, which is the farthest one from the center line. Blueprints in this case, and we're going to go to port lower outboard, PLO. Now we talked in I think it was the last episode that was there going to be some problems with the unique numbers on the toolbars, and the answer was yes, because every time this is recreated, the foundation has not changed. And what I mean by that is that the bomber is still the bomber, because all of these are actually projecting against the bomber. When these are actually welded and materialized, they're going to increment their counters because it's the bomber. It remembers. Or rather, Space Engineers remembers. So my idea of being able to program the toolbar once and have the user just go about their merry way, no, not going to happen. I was thinking at first that, okay, there's no need for anything unique. And then I was thinking, well, okay, but if I don't have anything unique, then how are you going to know which hard point you're actually firing from? So I decided, okay, yes, I will go ahead and make unique ones. So um, as you can see here on the side, there's a bunch of unique ones, 9 to be to put a number to it. So HEBI, high explosive bottom interface, and that's the port upper and starboard upper respectively, and those are the ones that are up there on the top. Those huge warheads that hopefully will do a huge amount of damage. The rest of the 9, you see the LA, that is the lower aft. So getting a little bit simplistic in our acronyms here, but for those of you who are in the military, you understand that acronyms are acronyms, and they just, wow, you want to talk about acronyms. If you've been around in the military for a while, then you know those acronyms actually change. So not only do you have to know 247,126 acronyms, but some of those change on a yearly basis. So anyway, acronyms, we'll keep them slow. So TI stands for top interface, because these are all underneath, so they need to interface on the top of the missile. So TI for that. So in this case, we are dealing with the port lower outboard mount hardpoint. So that's the one that we are going to grab there. All right. So okay. We'll have to do a few more things here. So we said that was the port lower outboard, keep projection. So all of these are keep projection, which is good. All right, so port lower outboard. In this case, we have to find it. I'm not sure exactly where it went, so we're going to play with the vertical offset here and see if we can find it. Okay, so it does say projection is inbound. Well, let's Oh, that would be why. So those are about lined up with. So they're lined up with this. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to be an horizontal offset of 6. That's a forward offset. I don't know. So let's get that one set up. Whether it is a positive 6. Well, it shows something. Not seeing it. Not seeing it. That's the challenge of setting these up when you don't have any remote control capabilities, which is really to say when you have no way to really look at it. All right, lower outboard. So horizontal offset. Let us lower this down. See if we can find it, and then go from there. Still not visible. There it is. All right, so clearly we went the wrong way horizontally, but now we know what we can fix. Unfortunately, because this piece of the screen is not opaque, then it's hard to see everything. All right, so we know we can reverse the horizontal offset. So we go the other way. So we go up to a +6. And vertical offset, we can do the same thing. So there you go, we can see it. You can see it off to the side of the screen there. Alright, so as you can see, we are in fact lines up horizontally. We need to drop down 1 and go forward a couple. So, alright, so port lower outboard. So we need to drop down 1 more in our vertical. And then I'm going to try to go forward 4. Unless we're going, nope. Let's try 3. Get it on the hard mount there. Okay, we got a roll. So it is lined up correctly as far as where it should be, but I need to roll it, and I don't know the negative versus the positive, counterclockwise versus clockwise. I really truly have no idea. So the only thing I can tell you is I know that's roll. So we're going to spin it around the center axis, which is roll. And the only thing we can do is go 90 degrees, because I know I'm 90 degrees off. Let's pick the right block, how about? So we're going to the roll. We can either go -90 or +90. If my warning goes away, which it did not, then I know I go the other way. Bing, warning went away. Alright, so that should be centered and ready to go. Yes, it is. So our missile is set up. Now the only thing we can consider there is, because that's in the orange area, actually recoloring that particular weapon. So let me go ahead and do that. This was a PLO. So we are going to bring that in, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that in close. Paste it. P to select our color, select our tiger orange, control shift and center mouse button, which will change the color there. So I didn't realize, okay. So control X will delete this. Remember, this was PLO, port lower outboard. F10 to get back into our little world here, and then replace from clipboard. Now I could, you see that the missile itself is black in the thumbnail, even though we have now changed it, because I didn't update the thumbnail. All I did was change the torpedo. So there we go on the, this is the starboard lower outboard. So we will control V, paste that into the world. We'll do a control center roll, and click there again. Control shift and center mouse button to color the entire grid. 0 to escape, and then X to delete, which was our starboard lower outboard. So why do I repeat that so much? Because I forget. So just want to cue everyone in. So highlighted, I am going to replace that object with the clipboard, which is done. And then cancel, get out of here. And so you see this missile is black. We're going to do a K. We're going to get back onto our port lower outboard mount. We're going to do blueprints, and we're going to do port lower outboard, reselect the blueprints. All the other settings will stay the same, and we'll have a look-see. Alright, so you can see that this is still where it's supposed to be, and the color changed, so as we updated everything. Now, we're going to cheat a little. Okay. So if we look at our port lower outboard settings, we have a 6, a 3, a 3, and a negative 90. Okay? So remember, 6, 3, 3, we want to be accurate, 0, 0, negative 90. 6, 3, 3, 0, 0, negative 90. Starboard lower outboard is going to be exactly the opposite, reasonably, as this one, because it's moving to the other side of that. So it should be a negative 6, negative 3, 0, 0, and 90. So negative 6, negative 3, negative 3, 0, 0, and 90. So let's set this up. This is the starboard lower outboard. Okay. Starboard lower outboard. Remember, negative 6, whoops, negative 6, negative 3, vertical offset, you know what, that might be a 3. Forward offset might actually be a 3 as well, because the horizontal is the side-to-side thing. And then we're going to roll to the 90. And that did not work, so we're going to roll to the negative 90. And that might have worked. So rolled the same way. Alright, let's have a look, see what it did. So it is in the mount, and the mount is ready for welding. So look at that. So that's one of the things about projectors. Now these are not exact opposites, but if you keep in mind which aspects were opposite, you see how easy it was. We just copied over numbers, thought about it for a little bit, and then realized, oh, okay, yeah. So given the position of those projectors that I have dedicated, now what I mean by dedicated is I just named them. So it's actually random. If you remember, there were 4 projectors along that lower section of the fuselage right next to the wings. Now what we've done, I've just picked a random one and called it, okay, that's this one. The forward ones happen to be the upper mounts on each side. So everything on the starboard side is relative to the starboard, so it's being used for the starboard. Everything on the port side is for the port side. So so anyway, so there's now of the 9 that are here, we have completed 5 of them. So the uppers, the outboards, and the aft are completely done. So all we have to do now is focus on the last 4, which is really the last 2, because remember, we're just reversing stuff. So lower center or lower inbound? Let's go with lower center. So blueprints, port lower center, PLC. Okay. Go back in, port lower center, which is right here. And I think our vertical offset and our forward offset is going to be different, but I think our vertical offset is going to be the same. So I just think. In fact, for all of these, I think we can lower that down to. Okay, we'll just focus here. Focus. All right. So if we consider, let's have a look. So we see that that was indeed correct. Okay. So the 3 on the offset for vertical is correct. Now, are we dealing with inboard? What was I dealing with? Center. Center. Okay, so nice to know that that 0 is which is to be expected. So the projectors are on this line of the ship. So we need to go 2 outboard from here, which we remember on this side of the ship was a positive number. So we need to go 2 more, and then we're going to have to rotate, rotating the same way, and then go forward 1, 2, 3, Alright, so let's see how that works out. So, port lower center. Our horizontal offset is going to be, well, we were positive, so 1, 2, and our roll is going to be positive 90, right? And our forward offset is going to be 4. So let's see what that did for us. Okay, so I need to roll the opposite direction, but other than that, I'm all lined up. So on that roll, I need to go the opposite way, so it's a negative 90 instead of a positive 90. Okay, port lower center. So I roll to negative 90, and my warning should go away. There it did. All right, so we have a 2, 3, 4, and negative 90. So this will be the starboard lower, which will be a negative 2, 3, 4, negative 90. Blueprints. Starboard lower center. Okay. Starboard lower center. Negative 2. Oops. Negative 2. 2. Oh darn. 3 and 4 and negative 90. All right, let's see what that looks like. Huh? Okay, didn't quite work. The good news is it looks like. Other than the vertical, we are lined up. So, starboard lower center, figure out what the heck happened here. 2, oh, that's what it was. 2, 3, 4, and I put in 2, 2. Alright, so our warning went away. I see the darker block here. Alright, so it is ready to weld up and be mounted. Alright, so the last one here, which remember our horizontal offset was indeed 0. So for our last one, which is our inboard blueprints, so we're looking for the port lower inboard, which is that one. Okay. Port lower inboard. We remember, I'm going to presume, because these are all based on the same thing, that we go a negative 90. Our vertical offset is going to be a 3. And then our horizontal. Okay, now, how did I do that? I'm watching the warning, and as soon as the warning goes out, it says to me that I have a mountable block. So let's look and see what we got. All right, so the roll is correct. My forward positioning is correct, and we are indeed at the right angle. So this is exactly what it needs to be. All right, so we're going to mirror that on the other side. Which is now the starboard lower inboard. SLI, starboard lower inboard. Okay. Okay, again, to get back into the world here, starboard lower inboard. Okay, so we're going to roll. We know that's going to be there. This was a forward 5, and this was a 3. So if I change, so there's the 4, so the 6 puts it off, the 5 is out. Alright, so I think we are reversed. So let's look here. Okay. So we have our block here. Get my character up. This is one of the downsides. Okay, so we are correct. All right. So currently, with everything we have, we are all ready to weld everything up. Now, the only thing we need to do before we save the bomber here is start adding some things onto our toolbar. So this is our cockpit toolbar. So the number 1 toolbar is pretty much full. Now, if we really kind of think about things, this is a 2-seater. Now, it's a 2-seater by virtue of there's 2 cockpits. Are we really going to play cooperative in this and force players to absolutely have a second player before they can use the bomber? And that's a good consideration. If you're designing something specifically for team play, realistically, if we were talking about a semi-modern warcraft, then you would have the pilot's chair, and then you would have, well, RIO, Radar Intercept Officer. Now, the Radar Intercept Officer is controlling the weaponry. So there's a lot of things happening there. So normally, if we were to have a 2-seater, then the front guy is the pilot. And for those of you who are pilots, you know that it can get really busy when you're flying, without having to worry about all the other things. So having somebody that helps you with the targeting and everything, and then all you have to do is get your nose lined up on target and pull the trigger, then might be a good thing indeed. Excuse me. So I think what we're going to do is try and keep things to the point where you could literally sit in either chair, just because. So here's one of the things that I want to do, which is going to be virtually impossible until we get those welded up. All right, so let's escape out of here. So we've got a couple of options here. So we had a we had a welding platform that we set up here for another demonstration. Let's go ahead and bring that into the world here. We'll flip that over. Now this thing is in here for a specific reason. Obviously, you see our mining drone here. If you remember that video. So what we're going to do here is alter things just a little bit. So the connector here, in this case, we're going to unlock that connector, and we're actually going to delete this because I don't really need it here. And at the same time, we're going to turn on the welders, and we're going to do a Shift F5 just in case something absolutely disastrous happens here, and then we will get in and test our piloting skills. So alternate. And what I'm going to do here is back up so I am more centered on this, so we're going to roll right over the top, and that's actually not too bad. We're going to go a little bit to starboard here, and then I think try and level out. Why that's going so slow. Alright, and then we're going to go down. The welders should be on, and you can see how quickly that started doing that, and our weight was affected almost instantly as those became real. Alright, so we're going to fly up and away from there. So all of these devices now are real. And the reason for that is while they were projections, I couldn't actually program anything related to those. So let me jump out of here, and the reason for jumping out of here is because I want to go down and turn the welders off. So turn the welders off. Alright, so what is this device? And you saw it in the other video. So a lot of times what I like to do is mock things up so I have them for use in other tutorials. Now, is building with projectors the simple matter of just hooking up a bunch of welders and push the on button? The answer is no. The welders draw from your storage system, whatever your storage system happens to be. So they are interconnected on your conveyor network, and hopefully reach back to a storage array, whatever that happens to be, and pulls those parts in, which saves you having to do it all by hand. So the idea behind this particular platform, it was a 10 by 10 platform here with an outer ring, which makes it 11 by 11, or really a 12 by 12, because you've got one on each side. And in fact, the inner ring there is an 8 by 8. So I actually have an 8 by 8 grid staggered like a chessboard, checkers board, whatever board. And every other non-adjacent square is a welder. So these particular welders, these are the twin welders, so they did not need to be right next to each other to do this. And you noticed we were quite high when that started welding. All right. So having turned that off, so I don't commit suicide when I get too close to it. Now you see all of these things which are uniquely named. So we have PLO, we have PLC, we have, so all of these have their own unique little identifiers. Alright, T, we're going to get into the chair. G. So one of the things I want to do is create a group. So let's back out of the G menu there for a second. We'll go into K. And so we have a bunch of things that are now showing up. So our projectors, I'm going to go ahead and create a projector group. So we can turn these on and off independently. Now I'm going to leave these on the configuration toolbar. Well, you know what, there's no reason to leave them on the configuration toolbar. Now that everything is configured, I don't really ever have to worry about these again other than turning them on and off. So off on the toolbar and off on the terminal, but they are still functional. And because I have a group now projectors, I have a projector and I have a projectors. So let's see what either one of these are, because I might have already done that. Alright, so we have all 9 projectors. So let's highlight the projector, which I'm guessing is going to be all of them, and let's highlight projectors and see. Okay, so it's the same thing. So projector is not correct because there's multiple ones there. So we're going to use the projectors one, which is the plural, which is exactly what I want. So we'll turn that off again now that we have fixed everything. So these are all the antennas here. So can't really do anything with those. This is the remote control for the bomber. These are the cameras for all the different ones. Guidance. So these are the actual guidance chips. All right. So torpedo guidance. Now, this may or may not work. I really have no idea. So my concept here is that, okay, I have 9 weapons. One of those weapons is unique because it's backwards facing. So I'm not going to worry about that yet. Okay. But my forward facing arms, which are 8, what I was thinking is that my toolbar is 9, right? So if I had a toolbar that was a lock on target, and all 8 of the forward units would lock on target with that, and then I could select individually which missile to launch, then it might actually be a little easier. So that was my thought process. So I want to see if this will work. So I've got torpedo guidance, save. Now do I need to display this on the toolbar? No. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. All of my antennas, I do not need to see those, so these are torpedo antennas, which I can turn off. I do not need to see those. So torpedo guidance, one of the things that I did want to do was roll this all the way up to 5,000. And it looks like I do have the button. Now, whether I have the button on the toolbar or not is left to be seen, so that should be interesting. Alright, so we've gotten a few things out of the way. Cameras are going to be a little interesting because the camera is an individual button. Reactors and remotes. So reactors, I don't really need that on the toolbar, so that is torpedo reactors. And I can, so create a group there. There's technically nothing I can do from inside the ship. These are all external. They're not connected into a conveyor system, so they're literally off. So I'm going to do a don't need to be on the toolbar config, do not need to be in the inventory, and take them off of my terminal window, so they're out of my way. So the cameras and the remotes. In this case, am I going to do anything with remote control? Well, I could. So here's what we're going to do. I have no idea what that was. Okay. Probably I did not get everything clicked. So block group. So torpedo remote controls. So we're going to save this. We're going to go ahead and keep this in the toolbar, and the reason I'm going to go ahead and keep this in the toolbar is because I may actually be able to if I program these, then you have full control over the missiles. So I'm going to leave those alone. But I do want to take that off the terminal. Alright, so what do we have left? We have our cameras. I think we're going to do the same thing. We'll leave it on the toolbar. So torpedo cameras. So we'll save, we'll leave it on the toolbar, and we will do a terminal off. Okay, so that cleaned up an awful lot of things. So all we left is our stuff here. Now guidance, nope, you know what, we're going to need to have the guidance on the toolbar because launch. So I have to be able to access each individual one of those to do the launch. Alright, so we have created our groups, I believe. So that's my number 1 button bar, which I set up earlier. What I want to do is copy this to the other cockpit. Now, is there an easy way to do this? Well, you can write it all down. I've done that before. What I've taken to doing more recently is I literally take a picture of the toolbar, or the toolbars in this case. And then I refer to that, you know, my phone can take pictures, so I take a picture on the phone, and then I look at it, and I have now a ready reference of exactly what I need to mimic on the other cockpit's toolbars, because toolbars are unique to the cockpit. They're also unique to the remote control. So if you are going through and programming all the different things you're actually, in the case of this particular vessel, you're actually going to do it 3 times, because you're going to do it on the one cockpit, which we're doing. Then we're going to program it on the second cockpit if we're totally mirroring everything, and then if we intend, oh, pardon me, to use the remote control, then we're going to be programming it all for the remote control as well. Alright, so number 2. So this is like our firing toolbar, I think. So G to get me into the toolbar configuration menu. Groups. So I have a group of guidance. And I don't know what this is going to do. So I'm going to drag it to the very center. Oh, look at that. Lock on target. So that's going to be a little bit fun. Alright, so I have 8 missiles facing forward. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my all blocks. Now, conceptually, where do we put these upper ones? Do we put them on the center line? Do we put them all the way to the outside? Now, that's really kind of your personal preference. So, to me, I would say the port upper and starboard upper are going to be on the very, very outside, which is to say slot 1 and slot 9. So that's going to be my launch for port upper and starboard upper, respectively. So there's the port upper. So I'm going to drag that up here, and that's a launch. If I do, that's the starboard upper, which is here, and launch. That's aft, so I am not going to put that onto this particular bar. Alright. Do I want to go inboard to outboard or outboard to inboard? I think I'm going to go outboard to inboard, as if you're staring down at it. Okay, so we're going to go all the way across the spectrum here. So the inboard will be inboard. So this is launch missile, so we're looking for the starboard inboard, which is this one. Launch. Starboard outboard, which then becomes this one. Launch. inboard, and this is center launch, and we are looking for, so this is the center launch, and inboard we already did that one, and this is the outboard launch. Alright, so technically we have set up our guidance as well as our individual. So here's what I want to do. So on the third toolbar, we're actually going to deal with, remember our LA, our aftmost one. So this one is going to be missile lock for aft, and then launch for the aft missile. Alright, cameras are going to be an interesting thing because we can't really program the cameras, because once they leave the ship, which is to say once the missiles detach from the ship, then you can no longer access those anyway. So the only way to do that would be to literally access the remote control and jump in. So we could actually do some of that, and so I'm going to find, here's our remote control for the aft one, and control. So we're getting, if you're familiar with programming, you remember nested loops, right? Okay, so we're getting nested here. So I have something that ultimately I'm going to call something else, which brings up another menu. So here's where we're going with this. So if I press 4, I'm going to get into the remote control of that aft weapon. Okay, so there we are. I am actually in the aft weapon now. Which actually, looking at this, because I had all these pre-programmed, so I've got my camera, I've got my lock-on, my launch, and my arming of the warheads, which is always a good thing. So I might actually do program these up so it's easy to get to these particular remote controls. Now that too is not going to matter when you launch, because you've now disconnected. The only way to get into them would be to let me demonstrate. So I'm going to escape. T will get me out of that particular thing. So now I'm back into the cockpit. Let's do a control 1, which will get me back to my normal cockpit. If I do a V, then I'll be back in the cockpit, literally. So that's my view, and this is the aft view, or the outer view. So from here, which you're flying, right? Is just inventory. You want to get this window open. Whether you do that with a K or an I, it doesn't matter. So we go up here and we have a drop down, which of course is doing absolutely nothing. Oh, and it's not doing anything because they're all attached. Okay, they're part of this grid right now. So the second you launch the weapon, it will become a different grid, and it will show up here. Now, it's not going to show up as anything that you can recognize. It's going to be a small grid something. And that's because it does not keep the name that it had in the projection. Okay, because it was attached to this grid. Because it's attached to this grid, then there is no name. When it drops off, it doesn't have the ability to retain the name, so it comes up with a random 4-digit name at that time. That's what you're going to see in this window. And so you can click on it. It's going to bring up the menu for the actual control panel menu. You go down to, well, you know what? let's demonstrate. So, T, I'm going to jump out of this. Why am I jumping out of this if I said I was going to demonstrate? So, we're going to, I'm going to tilt a little bit so I don't have the, because I don't want the welding platform in the way. So this is a Control B. We should have a Bomber-Fighter. So this is the unarmed Bomber-Fighter and the armed. So details, we're going to rename this and we're going to do a parentheses armed. Okay. Now, why did I save this? Because we're going to use this and then we're going to pull another one out from inventory. And the reason why that is like I discussed before, the second you launch these things and recreate them, the numbers are going to change. Everything falls off your toolbar. So by just copying this thing in, then I'm hoping we will have some symmetry. All right, so, oh, this is a little heavier now. So let me get into my cockpit and I'm going to launch. Oh, we are heavy. All right, so you can see we're way overloaded. So, this is good to know, because obviously we have a whole lot more weight than we did before. So T. So if you remember, as we were playing around, we had these 6 reactors up here, and that was plenty. We did not really need any additional. The question is, how do we get more reactors? Alright, so let's bring up a small reactor, and we're going to change colors. I'm going to put that tiger stripey black. We're going to rotate that around, and if I remember correctly, we have that should be the hydrogen tank there, if I remember correctly. And that is a hole up there. So, because that is a hole, let's go ahead and put a reactor there. Now, what am I doing here? I'm going to cheat just a little bit. So, G, let me bring in my small conveyors, which is going to help me. So turn this back into Tiger Orange 1. Go ahead and fix that. We're going to turn these sideways just to be symmetrical. All right. So we're going to change a few things here. So let me bring that back up. I'm going to remove these things here. Why am I removing those things there? So this is underneath the center line. And what I want to do, I'm hoping I will not disturb anything greatly. That was a little frightening. Here's what we're going to do. We put one center line, that little reactor up there, and we are going to put 10 more reactors here. With the, there we go, and turn them sideways. Now, the question is, do we need 10? Or do we want to put 15? Do you like having all the little lights underneath? And if we do, then we can actually change to tiger stripe black and put 5 more reactors out. Now, is this going to be total overkill? Well, the answer is obviously yes. But it was a good opportunity, and I can actually get some of these underneath armor, which is all the better. So, P to change colors. And hey, look, they're kind of gone. And then those will eventually turn green. So, is that asking for Clang to have those exposed like that? Possibly. But you know what? You never learn what Clang can do until you tempt him a little. And you know what? We can always learn something. Alright, so we'll get back in the cockpit. Maybe not. T. Let's go to our K. We have reactors versus the reactors that we have out there. So these are reactors. I'm going to go ahead and do a Control A to literally pick up everything and change that to me, I think. Okay, go back up, select my reactor here, shift, which will now, as you can see, select all of them. These are reactors, which are just my ship reactors. So save, turn them off, the toolbar, which is really the toggle, and then toggle terminal on and off. Okay, and those should have all gone in there. Alright, inventory. We're going to go just reactor. Okay, so if everything is equal, then I should have all of these guys. So we did have a small reactor forward, and I named all those, and then these are all of the aft ones that I didn't name, so I'm going to just ignore the OCD for a moment there. Now, one of the possible reasons why I was overloading is because all of these missiles are set to charge batteries. So I may literally not have enough batteries or enough reactors to charge everything up. The last of them. Alright, and then containers. Let's see if I have any uranium left anywhere. I have a medium container there. So we're going to see if we can fit that in there, which we can fit a little bit. Let's do cargo. Oh, so I'm out of. Wow. Okay, I do have plenty of containers left. All right, so I'm out of ice. Interesting. Interesting to know. Am I cheating? Yes. The reason why is because I'm in creative here. So I want to create a ship that can go in and out of inventory with all the materials it needs, so I can test appropriately. Once this is up on the workshop, then depending on how you bring this into the world, if you literally put it in a projector and create it, then none of the materials that are in the vessel will actually come up when you're in survival mode. So you will have to repopulate everything. Obviously, if you bring it up in creative mode, then everything that's in the blueprint is going to be there. Sorry, that's a T. K, which is really inventory. So, fuel ice. So in this case, let's get the ice out of the cockpit. We're going to fill up fuel ice. So let's fill up all of these containers, because we are burning through all of the ice. Generator. So we only have the one generator. It's actually doing pretty good to keep up. And then cargo. So our fuel ice containers are already full. Our small ammo containers are already full. Our medium, that one medium container is full. This one is now full. That one is not full, so we'll start by putting some more in there, and then start by putting that in there. And then the only thing we have left will be the cockpits. So we'll see if we have almost everything filled up here. And connector, which is aft. Why not? Why not? Alright, they're both full. Alright, so let me jump out of here. We are going to do a Control C, which copies as it is. F10. We're going to point to our Bomber-Fighter armed and do a replace with clipboard. Yes. Alright. Into the front cockpit here. We are headed now towards... Alright, so even with all of those reactors online, we are still having issues. So I'm going to arm my my guns here. So even though I'm running at 100%, so my guns are only going to work out to about 600 meters. So as you can see, I'm coming up on the red, which is my target here, and so we're inside of 6 degrees. Frozen. I'm frozen. So we're doing a little bit of damage there. Now that we have looked at things, oh darn, which is why you turn them off. So control 2, we are so 5. We are target locked. Okay. Which might be interesting. So let me turn just a little bit here. And what I think I'm going to do is launch my port side upper and see what happens. So what I'm going to do is port side upper. What I'm looking for is the guidance. Port side upper, this one. So this is targeted where I want it to be targeted. If we do a launch of that particular one, which is my number 1, then it should lock on and do it. I didn't see it. What happened? Huh. I have no idea what happened there. I would think that would have. Okay, so this the bomber may not be functioning as intended here. So we're gonna try 9. So they're showing up on the board here as if they're grayed out, right? But it doesn't really look like they're grayed out, but they are, because they're gone now. But they're not really gone. They're right there. There they are. All right, so missiles. All right, let's jump out of here. Let's find out what happened to these guys. Green, which is locked and homing, but I have no power. Why do I not have any? Okay, thrusters. Off, on. Current output is 0. How about batteries? Battery. Current input 0, current output 0. Stored power. This is set to recharge. Alright. Whoa. That's a big hole. So the learning curve here is that when we shift the batteries, or when we launch, then the batteries go to whatever their settings were. And in the case so those HEs can really go. Woo-wee. So this was from the guns over here. Alright, so a little bit of a learning curve here on figuring out how to make the bomber work. Obviously what I wanted to do was to launch everything and have it go without an issue, and we discovered we had a battery issue, which is really to say the battery shifted over to charging. Well, not shifted, I set them to charge. What I really need to do is make sure that the batteries are set to run, which is to say not recharge. So I suppose I need a button on the dashboard there to say quit charging. Anyway, we will learn some more and do some more testing in the next of the series. So in the meantime, this is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we will see you next time.